day, viewers. Welcome to the program. On the program today, we've got Jestina Mukoko, who is the Zimbabwe Peace Project Director, and she's going to be talking to us about the programs that they've been lining up during this whole period. As you might be aware, from around 2018, we've witnessed a number of violence, politically motivated violence. Up until now, we've witnessed a number of abductions, assaults of CSO, opposition members, and ordinary citizens by the government, by the police, especially since 2018, since the disputed elections. In your opinion, what has been causing this? What is causing all this?
It's unfortunate that we are having to go through what we are going through, especially noting that our work is now criminalized, the work of human rights defenders, the work of journalists, and it doesn't just affect us. I think it also extends to those who are related to us, because we have also seen the government, security forces arresting or holding at ransom relatives of people that they are after. And I think for me that's despicable for a country that aspires to be democratic, a country that has got a progressive constitution which they are not fully utilizing. And the reason why all this is happening is that the idea is to ensure that the citizenry does not access information. Because if the citizenry accesses information, it means that they will be able to make informed decisions. And having information also means that citizens will know where to demand to participate. They will also demand the full enjoyment of their rights. They will demand transparency and accountability. And I think these are all the things that they are keen on stopping. I think it's good for those in the elite to just go on as if everything is okay and no one really calls them out in terms of some of the things that they are doing. So for civil society, because we have been out there to create awareness, build the capacity of citizens, they find that to be very unwelcome in their strategy. And as a result, we have this criminalization of the work that we do.
So in other words, there's a deliberate effort by the government to stifle the voices of the citizens, of opposition leaders, of CSO leaders, so that people do not talk.
True, because then that will allow them to do everything that they want to do, which is against the constitution, against the rights of citizens. And I think we have seen, and it's clear to everyone, it has been proved, we have a minister who has been fired over corruption. And it's those things that they would want to protect, to ensure that they can continue doing those things without anyone raising their voice. And it's a bit of a concern for us in civil society, because I believe the work that we are doing as civil society, we are supposed to be watchdogs. And we are not enemies of the government. I think government could actually benefit in terms of picking a leaf from some of the issues that we bring up. Because all we do is shine a beam in dark corners and let them know that this is the situation in this constituency. This is the situation amongst this group. And a clever government would actually then act on some of those issues. But then when you speak out like that, they see you as an enemy, someone who deserves to be addressed in a derogatory manner, someone who deserves to to be said to be a sellout, to be a puppet of the West. But at the same time, you look at what is happening. A lot of the things that are happening amongst the Zimbabweans. And you ask yourself, where does the West come in? And it's really cause for concern for us.
Mm-hmm. One of the issues that has been coming out, especially from the interviews that we've been doing, is that there's a conflict between the government and the people, as you're rightly saying. But then you are supposed to be the conduit between the people and the government.
Mm-hmm.
Do the people understand your role as CSOs? Are you imparting your knowledge as CSOs vis-a-vis what they should be expecting from the government?
In some situations, that is also made difficult. Because when you have a government and leaders who are continually threatening civil society and apportioning blame to civil society for some of the things that have afflicted the country. In most cases, when you go out into a community, there are some communities who will sit you down and want to find out. We hear you are an enemy of the state. We hear that you invited sanctions to the country. The good thing is that when you go out to the people, they do allow you to engage, and they will, in most cases, accept what you tell them. Usually they will now say, we will prove it as we go along. And we have had people actually listening to the things that we talk about, because they concern them directly. Because when we are creating awareness around their rights, we are not just getting them from nowhere. Those rights are guaranteed in the Constitution. So you actually then go to the Constitution and say, this is what I am talking about. That these are the rights that the duty bearers have an obligation to ensure that you enjoy them. But at the same time also indicate to them that as citizens, they also have a role. They have a responsibility as citizens for them to, because when you are also a citizen, there are things that you are supposed to be doing to ensure that there is that cordial relationship in the enjoyment of your rights. Mm-hmm. So they do listen to what we talk about. And when we talk about human rights abuses, most of them will actually prefer to come and report to us about what they have gone through rather than to report to the police. And that should say something to institutions of the state. People have no confidence. They have no trust in those institutions. But if you go to the Constitution aspires for the police to become a service. But I think for me, in the manner that they have been able to manage the way that they do things, they have a long way to go to becoming a service. I still see them as a force. And I think the majority of citizens also see them as a force. And I think they've got a challenge that they need to really ensure that citizens have confidence and trust in them, so that when they experience human rights abuses, they can actually approach a police station and go and report. The police are actually supposed to be human rights defenders, but citizens don't look at them that way. We have heard a lot of people saying, you are not police officers, why do people come and report their experiences to you? They feel more comfortable to come and talk to us about what they have gone through than going through the police. But we also insist to people that it's important that they do make a report. But how do people go and make a report? When someone goes to a police station, rather than be looked at as a victim, requiring redress in terms of what they would have gone through, instead it is turned around and that individual becomes a perpetrator. And we have a very a case that we had this week where someone's they experienced malicious damage to their property. They went to a police station and they were told that when investigations are done, that's when they will get an RRB number. It doesn't make sense. How then do you identify my case if you have not given me the unique number that links me to this case? So I think it is important that that institution becomes an institution that serves citizens. Our concern with the police is that there is that conflation between state institutions and the ruling party, and that needs to stop, because when you are a police service, you are actually supposed to serve all citizens regardless of the political party that they belong to.
You rightly say, you talk about conflation, you talk about the police force, and what we have witnessed over the past, let's say, 2 years, because I'm going to be biased towards especially the post-2018 elections, because that's when we've witnessed a number of these violations. The government has tried not to deal with the issues. You look at the Motlanthe Commission, the recommendations, nothing has been done. Why do you think, in your opinion, is that? Why is it the government does not want to sort of address the issues, the violations being done by the police, by the army? Why is that? Is it because of the politicization of these institutions, or are the police serving the shelves? so you know.
I think that one boggles the mind, because obviously there are resources that were lost going to the commission to ensure that the Motlanthe Commission does what it had been commissioned to do. And at the end of the day, if they came up with the recommendations that they came up with, no one then follows those recommendations. And what makes it even sad is that before the ink dried on the Motlanthe report, we had even a higher number of people being gunned down. And what we recognize is that there is no political will to deal with these issues. And it's also said that when you go to the Constitution, Section 210 speaks to the complaints mechanism that should actually be used against those in the military and those actually the security forces. And still that has not been operational. It's only now that we have a ruling from the courts that they have indicated that that needs to be operational. And I think what we are really recognizing is that there is a lot of militarization. And what that militarization does is that it instills fear in citizens. And they are unable to fully participate in what is supposed to be a democracy. And issues of transparency, issues of accountability are not really priority issues. And I think if you juxtapose what people had been promised when this government came into power, a lot of people thought that there was going to be a difference. But I think what we have seen is that there has been no difference at all. Actually, it has been worse, because if we look at the previous government, I think there was an attempt to hide some of these things. But I think for me, what makes me really afraid is the brazen nature in which they have attacked unarmed civilians who are supposed to enjoy protests, because that is guaranteed in the Constitution. And then you look at our Constitution as well, you recognize that there is a raft of amendments that are being proposed. And I think in that regard, you recognize that some of the sections of the Constitution have not even been tried. So why do we want to change them? Because for me, then it's shortchanging the people who overwhelmingly went to vote yes in the referendum in March 2013.
Interesting. And then the Independence Complaints Commission, it was going to be one of my questions. Now that it's there, do you think maybe this is the government trying to be sincere towards resolving these conflicts between the citizenry and the armed forces?
I think it remains to be seen. We need to see it in place. Because I think what we experience is that what comes out of the mouth and what actually happens on the ground are two totally different things. Because we have institutions that are supposed to be independent, whose independence is actually withdrawn by the executive, and that makes everything a mockery. So I think we need to see this at play so that we can be convinced that it is fully following its mandate, which is within the Constitution, to ensure that citizens are able to put forward complaints that they might have against the security forces.
You keep talking about citizens being afraid, a fearful nation. What are the implications of having a frightened citizenry?
The implications are that you can never take pride to say that you have a democracy running. Because unless citizens are part of that process, you cannot begin to speak about democracy. So I think that really does a blow, because if someone is seeking for something to be done and they are afraid even to talk about it, or an experience that they have gone through, that someone says, yes, I will let you know what I went through, but please don't talk about it, because they have received threats. We have had reports of people being approached in their homes by masked, armed people who have removed them from the security and privacy of their homes to go and torture them. And I think you are aware we have also had a lot of a different narrative where people are now being accused of abducting themselves, torturing themselves, sexually abusing themselves. For me, it just doesn't make sense. Unless you are able to tell me exactly who is doing it. I think I would want to say our police have got a very good name out there when it comes to dealing with tough issues. We saw how they cracked the Tapiwa Makore issue, which is really a dent in terms of respecting the rights of children. It's a sad state of affairs that we woke up to in September, and it seems it was a growing problem, because you remember they are talking about another skull that was discovered that seems not to match the late Tapiwa Makore, and we know that they have cracked some of the most tough cases, and for me I think it's just a lack of sincerity and political will for them to crack the abduction cases if really they are being done by someone who is not in government.
You're also a victim of this, right? I was watching your interview before I came here, just to appraise myself. But then you have walked this road, and obviously hearing that the government denies and then I blames the victims of abducting themselves. Why does the government do this? It looks like it's been there. It's been there for a long time and it doesn't change. Why is it like that? Even from the Robert Mugabe era.
The thread has always been there. The thread of denial. When I was abducted on the 3rd of December 2008, the police who came to attend to the scene said they had no knowledge about what had happened. The police went to the extent of doing an advert in the paper to say if anyone knows what happened, because at the time we were now 3 with 2 of my other colleagues from the organization. If anyone has any information about these 3, please get in touch with us. And for me, that's a double standard. Because when I was then removed from incommunicado detention, where I was kept for 3 solid weeks being tortured, I was handed over to the police at Brayside police station. And when that happened, the police at Brayside knew. The police had put out an advert in the paper. And they did not communicate with my family. They did not communicate with my lawyer to say that there are people who are handing her here. They were in such a vehicle. It was a smooth handover from these guys to those guys. And the conclusion is they were in cahoots. I was blindfolded, and when the first police officer who addressed us, because there were a number of us who were released on the same day, we asked if we could remove the blindfolds. He said, no, not yet. We asked which police station we were at. I will let you know. Obviously, evidence that there was a working together between the people who abducted me. Actually, the police knew about everything that was going on, and they were pretending that they did not know what had happened to me. And I wouldn't be surprised that it's the same thing that is happening now. I really have to be convinced, because there was a time that they were talking about a third force, a third hand. Where is that third hand coming from? Why can't we crack the third hand? Because these abductions are happening in Zimbabwe. It's not like they are happening across the border. Prove to me that there is a third hand. Now that we are looking at abductions being perpetrated through a hired vehicle. That case that had all the video footage of how it happened, and the way that this person initially had been arrested by the police, and then he simply disappears from the custody of the police, says a lot. And I think they would have proved that they are not involved by investigating. But have you had anything in terms of the investigation related to the Tawanda Mcheyiwa abduction? None. And we have several others. There is a guy who was made to clean human waste using his hands in Chitungwiza as he was being tortured. And no investigation has gone on. But I think what is important for the government to recognize is that citizens are supposed to enjoy, especially the security of person. They are also supposed to enjoy dignity, which are all enshrined in the Constitution. And I think as citizens, I shouldn't be fearful of walking out there because I fear being abducted and tortured. And I think if you ask any Zimbabwean now what they are most fearful of, they are never fearful of being arrested and taken to a police station. They fear being abducted because you are not sure of what will happen to you. Look now, 5 years later, no one has accounted for Itai Dzamara. And we say that citizens are free? I don't think so.
It looks like youths are the ones who are being targeted. Is this a deliberate attempt to send a message to the youth because they are the more vocal ones? Maybe?
I think so. That they are supposed to be muzzled. I think they know the energy that the youths have. They were youths at one time, and they know the energy that they had at the time that they fought the colonial administration. And I think this is also deliberate in terms of targeting young people who are recognizing that it is, their future is doomed unless they are, something happens in terms of ensuring that they are able to enjoy their life as Zimbabwean citizens. But it is impossible when socially you can't get attended to in a hospital in a manner that you would want to be attended to. Yes, we appreciate the issues around COVID-19, but I think we already had a problem in the health sector that was just exacerbated by COVID-19. Our health delivery system on its knees, where the majority of people are not able to access good health care, not even primary health care. Look at the number of women who are losing babies in childbirth, women who are dying while they are pregnant. I think those situations just show us a very bleak future of our young people. And I think a lot of this really went down the drain because the elite was okay. They didn't worry about what was happening in the health sector. They could just fly out with their jets and get first class medical attention outside the country, which is unfortunate because I think if we are supposed to have any law, we should have laws that force everyone to get medical attention locally. That will make people address some of the issues. And then we look at our education sector. It's a nightmare to have children in public schools because teachers are just not able to make ends meet. I was really dumbfounded for one of our so-called leaders, saying that teachers in his area can go to his home to go and get rice and then he will get them a beast. What teachers need is to get a decent salary. They will be able to provide for themselves. They are not a charity case, and we should not look them as a charity case. I think all of us came out of the hands of teachers, and we need to give them the requisite respect that they deserve, because they are the ones that we actually send our children to. Why is it that we look down upon what they are supposed to be getting for a full day's work that they put up?
Where does ZPP come in as far as addressing these issues is concerned?
The Zimbabwe Peace Project is an organization that monitors and documents human rights abuses throughout the country. We have a unique model that we use, where we have monitors in all constituencies and in about 50 districts. At district level, there are actually persons with disability that we have deployed. The reason being, it has been difficult for us to be able to get information from the constituency of persons with disability. And so when we commissioned a research to look at the impact of political violence on persons with disability, we got a recommendation that we mainstream disability throughout all our activities. And as I speak, we have persons with disability represented on our board and in all our activities, including the activities that have to do with monitoring and documentation. So when they get this information, we are also then able to put this information in what we call our monthly monitoring report. But beyond that, we also act as a referral center where we recognize what assistance the people that have gone through an abuse would want. Assistance in the form of service from lawyers, service from doctors, service from social therapists, and we are able to refer them for those services so that there is immediate intervention while they are dealing with their situation. We are keen to work with institutions like the police. We are encouraging people at the moment to go and report whatever abuse they have gone through. Actually, in the run-up to the 2018 elections, we had a project where we were encouraging women to go and violence against women in elections was the project, and we worked hand in hand with the police, where we were encouraging those women whose rights had been violated to actually report to the police. Some of the cases were reported to the police. Some of them were attended to, but we also had a significant number of cases where women were afraid to approach the police. They would tell us that they don't know how they would be able to live in the same community, knowing that the perpetrators have an upper hand in terms of connections with the police, and having seen what had happened in the past. But at that time, we also kind of saying things are likely to change, but I think they recognize that it would present a lot of challenges. So a lot of women would just report that I went through this, but they would not want to go through it to go and report to the police, because that would also mean that probably they would go to the courts and testify. Because in one of the cases, we're very close to having the perpetrator being arrested. But the person that we were trying to assist backtracked and said, I will not be able to live in this community. This is where I have my children. This is where I'm raising my children. How will I be able to live with these people who had violated my rights? Which is that issue of fear again, which becomes a very personal matter. You can't then say to someone who is in Urungwe or wherever, you say, no, you have to go and report. You also need to be alive to the fact that they are afraid because of real threats that they have faced a long time in their lives.
So fear can also be a big impediment to one getting justice.
True. That can really be a sorry state of affairs. I remember that we even tried with psychosocial therapists to talk to this. There is a particular woman who approached us from Urungwe, and it just did not work. On one day, she was on her way to the police, but all of a sudden, I think it just hit her to say, yes, I might go to the police, but what then happens to me living in this community? So those are some of the issues that we deal with at the Zimbabwe Peace Project. And we have also gone out to initiate community peace building activities. We have a few communities that we have targeted, where we have established community structures, where the community structures are responsible for mapping conflict in their area and also being able to transform that same conflict with the vision of ensuring that there is no conflict in their area, and also ensuring that when special events come, they would be able to sort of reduce as much as possible in terms of human rights abuses.
All right. I think in conclusion, one more question, because I think we're about to wrap up. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 16 talks about peace, justice, and strong institutions. And looking at Zimbabwe, how far are we from achieving that, especially given the fact that we have got until 2030 to achieve that?
I think that one is a big issue. It's really a thorn in the flesh, in the sense that when you look at our constitution, we are supposed to be having independent commissions. We are supposed to have those actually hear the cries of the citizens. But at times you get a feeling that those institutions are not as strong as they are supposed to the extent that they will be able to attend to issues affecting citizens without fear or favor. I think a good example that I can give you is that in the Constitution, we have public interviews for judges. But when you look at Constitutional Amendment number 2, it seeks to change that. That we do not have the public interviews. The public interviews instill a sense of transparency in terms of what is happening with regards to the appointment of judges, because you are aware that there's been huge concern in terms of interference within the circles of the judiciary. So the removal of that aspect in what is being proposed in Constitutional Amendment number 2 is a sad state of affairs. And I think what we really need in Zimbabwe are strong institutions and not strong men and women, because strong men and women will leave those institutions. But if we have built institutions according to what is required according to our constitution, we will actually be somewhere in terms of those institutions being sensitive to what citizens are going through. I will actually speak about some of the progressive reports that have come out of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. You are aware that a lot of those reports, because they have tackled issues that people are facing, they've actually been labeled peddling falsehoods, simply because they have touched on the crux of the matter. And it's sad when we have that kind of a situation.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.